Okay, so we're back here, and probably my favorite things to discuss are these three functions: moisture, monitor temperature, and motion, because honestly these were kind of the most difficult and the most rewarding once they were done. So let's go ahead and talk about how this moisture, motion, and monitor temperature work in these following videos. So all of those three functions relate to the majority of these digital indicators. So we have our cold indicator, hot indicator, water leak, which is our moisture function, and motion detection, which comes from our motion function. And then we have air vent, which pretty much comes from our monitoring temperature, because we want to know whether it's open or closed so that we can sustain a correct temperature inside the home. And we also have manually open events, which directly affects our temperature. And then we have our increased and decreased functions, which directly influence our monitoring temperature function. So let's go ahead and get into it. So for moisture, we have this moisture function, and every 2 seconds, as we discussed earlier, it is called. So here we have monitor moisture. Obviously it's behind these other ones, but that's because we want to get the data first before we start using that data. So we'll go into the moisture first, since we're kind of going down the line here. And we see that here, if debug times was enabled, so if you had put debug times to be a 1 instead of a 0, then you would have had the ability to see what time it entered into this function, and that could be very useful if you're trying to understand how this code works. So using those is definitely to your advantage. Here, analog read is the simple statement that is needed to read the analog value on the moisture pin, which in our case is pin 2. So we get this value, we store it, and we're using it to see if we need to signal an alarm that there's a leak in the room. So the value is 900. Any value 900 or above means that it's fully submerged in water. And we enter into this statement if the water alarm was previously off. So if your water alarm was on, so imagine if this was greater than 900, so imagine if val was 1000 and the water alarm was originally off, right? So now water alarm, so that means notify alarm was 0, because alarm off means that is equal to, essentially these are the same. So if alarm was 0, this being equal to alarm, then what we do is we set alarm equal to 1, and we update the alarm database, or the alarm struct variable. So here, now imagine that we've already gone through this loop, and alarm was 0 in the beginning, now it is 1, and this is also 1. So we can change that to be this 1, but our value is still 1000. So is our value greater than 1000? Yes. But is the alarm off? No, because alarm is 1 now, so it's on. So we don't have to continuously enter into this if statement. And that's the power of these character arrays, because they allow us to enter into a function once when that condition is met. And that helps us not store or update this value every single time we enter into this loop. And that's what's keeping the processor, in my opinion, nice and healthy. So now we enter, let's just run through this again. So value is still 100, because say we dunked the moisture sensor in water, and so now it's 1000, and then notify alarm is 1. We will not enter into this function again. So let's go ahead and see this function. So imagine this is still the same case. Okay, so value is less than 900. Well, we see that it's not, and we won't enter into this function. But if alarm, the second condition is satisfied, because notify alarm is in fact on. So that would have been half of the if statement would have been satisfied. So if this value is taken out of the water and is now reading 0, then this statement is satisfied and this statement is satisfied because alarm is 1. So when we enter into this finally, we make alarm 0, which means now this is back to its 0 state and it is off, which means, and this is kind of helps you keep track of what is being said on this on this indicator. So it also helps you not only limit how many times you enter into this if statement, but it also lets you know how the status of your indicator in Cayenne is. And that's how the moisture program works.